Okay, so before we jump into messaging, channels, and tactics, we need to look at something that most founders don't even care to try and uncover and understand, which is context. Now, context is extremely important. We need to understand our internal context as a team and the external context, i.e., the battlefield that we're about to play on, or have this fight, which is our go to market. Because if we don't understand what the landscape looks like and where we're going to be having this bout, it's going to be very hard to win and very hard to go to market, win users, and make the biggest splash possible with our desired audience. So here's the big mistake. Founders will look at what other companies executed tactically, but not consider the context that they have for themselves. For example, they might copy what a VC backed company is doing, or what a Twitter thread told them to do, or what worked for a SaaS unicorn launching a new product. But those companies have different amounts of capital, team compositions, different access or strength of distribution, and the same product in two different contexts requires two different sets of go to markets. What worked for a company with 3 million in funding, a 12-person team, and 10 years of industry experience is not going to work for a bootstrap 3-person team of first time founders. That's just how it is. So you have to understand the battlefield, and it's hard to design a plan to win the fight if you don't understand the context. And your go to market strategy should align with your current context, not what you're aspirationally looking, right? Don't match your go to market with your future ambition. You're going from 0 to 1, not from 0 to 100. So let's define the context properly. Now, there's 5 layers that we need clarity on. First is our goals. So, what do we want to achieve from this go to market? What's our objective? What resources do we have available? So, team, capital, distribution, constraints, and alignment within those resources. Third is the audience, so who we actually pushing this product to. Fourth is the product, so what product or what version of the product is actually going to market as our MVP. And what is the market context? Who are the competitors? What are the market trends? What does the landscape look like? All 5 of these are extremely important for your go to market. And in this video, we'll cover the first 2 and leave the remaining 3 for their own videos because they're quite chunky. So let's start with goals. Most founders say things like, we want growth, we want traction, we want users. That's not a goal. You need specificity. What do you want for the next 3, 6, 9 months? Do you have a revenue target? Are you planning to raise VC capital, or are you just looking for very aggressive growth to take market share? These are all different types of goals. I mean, another one here, are you looking to win a certain audience segment? Now, goals need to be specific because vague goals create shoddy execution. If the goals are not clear, people don't know where to put their attention in order to move the needle. So you need to create specific goals for very focused execution. If your revenue target is 500K in 18 months, then that leads to a different GTM structure than someone who wants to grow fast as possible before they raise the next funding round. And so your strategy must serve your objective, because these are going to be the things that outline what you need to do and where you should be putting your focus. Now, let's talk resources, because resources determine our options for user acquisition and the lanes that are open to us for our go to market. It's not about preference, it's not about what sounds exciting, it's about what resources we have available to us and how we can make the most out of them. So, heading into battle, what does our army look like? What ammunition do we have? What do we lack? What are our constraints? And what are our hyper advantages? And we can start here with capital, right? Capital is usually a very big constraint for a lot of teams. So, how much runway do we actually have? Are we flush for cash, or are we kind of pinching at straws here, right? Do we using our last bit of capital to really push this product to market? How flexible is our budget? Now, capital can dictate a lot of routes which might be available. If you don't have sufficient capital, then some routes might be closed. For example, if you're looking to do a mass media or PR focused go to market and you can't afford a PR company, that's going to be quite a shame. Or if you're looking to do a global expo show, but you can't afford the booths or you can't afford the travel, then that's probably not going to be open to you either. So understanding how much capital we have is extremely important because it tells us where we should be focusing that money. If we have a little bit, then we should be focusing on things that we know are going to move the needle, as opposed to wider experiments that we can afford to take a loss on. Next up, we have team. So what is our team composition? What skills do we have available to us? And what are the constraints of our team as well? Are we a team with strong technical capabilities but no go-to-market operator experience? Are we a non-technical team with a lot of sales and marketing experience? These different scenarios give us different options and show us what our hyper advantages might be and what we might be lacking, and where we might need to fill in some gaps or what routes might not be available to us right away. It's not only important to understand what skills we have or we don't have, but also to understand the idea of alignment. Are people prepared to travel, take risks, spend a lot of time on this that might not be normal in the sense of work life balance? These are really important because a lot of times I work with teams who might have the capabilities, they might have raised VC funding and they have one person for every function that they require for the product's full go to market, but they don't have alignment. So the founders might expect extremely aggressive growth, but there's no dedicated GTM owner, or people are not prepared to put in the time, or they don't know what their exact role is, and the communication is off. Now, that's one form of alignment. Another form is just having mismatched expectations. For example, you could be running a paid acquisition strategy with 6 months of runway, which eats into your margin, and you're not even looking to make profit because you're just looking to scale organically. That puts you in a pretty tough spot because 6 months of runway is not a long time, and if you're just going to market with your product, that's probably not the best way to go ahead and do that. You're just eating into your war chest. So alignment can come in many different forms, but it's important to have alignment within your team to make sure everyone's on the same page. We know who owns the functions, we know whose responsibility is what, and you can move forward with speed and confidence, which is the most important things. Now, the last thing is looking at distribution. What are our immediate distribution capabilities? Do we have network? Do we have social presence? These are all things that we need to understand, because ultimately, the way that you distribute your product is going to be extremely important in your go to market. You need to make sure that you get your product in front of the right people as efficiently as possible. So, what are our unfair advantages here? Do we have a team that has been in this industry that we're building our product in for many years? Do we have a strong network? Do we have connections that we can rely on? Do we have goodwill? These are really important because if we have those things, we have a lot more options, especially in order to reach our target consumer. If we don't have those, we've got to find workarounds. We've got to find people who do and make sure that they can help us on our journey. So it's really important to understand what routes of distribution are available to us, what distribution is best to reach our target audience, which we'll get to in another video, and ultimately how much firepower we have to get this in front of the right people. So instead of chasing channels and tactics, we use the context that we defined here and the resources available to find the best set of playable moves that we can play. Once your context is well defined, your options for your go-to-market become very clear and your creativity has a lot of direction to work in. If the context is wrong, then everything downstream will be wrong as well, because you're basing the strategy and the channels and the tactics based on information or assumptions that are clearly incorrect. So it's in your best interest to be honest with yourselves about the context and make sure it's very clear. And again, once you have that in the right place, you can be very creative and confident in decision making, in moving faster and executing much better. It all comes down to how much information you have and how clear that is for you guys. By the end of this video, you should have a clear understanding about how you can assess and understand your context. Remember, go-to-market is about going from 0 to 1. So keep that in mind when you're looking at your context. Don't think so far ahead when there's no need to. Now, this is not meant to be exciting. It's actually quite boring, but it's fundamental because if you don't do it, then everything downstream of that will be misaligned. And the last thing we want is for you to go to market and end up wondering, why hasn't this worked? Or why am I not seeing traction? And then being a bit lost. Now that the initial context has been defined, we can move on to the next fundamental piece in this equation, which is who are we building for and what problem are we solving? Because a strategy will only work if it aligns with what the needs of the market are. So let's move over there.